All right, so Ethan Klein tried to get involved in all the Twitch drama that's been going on recently, and of course he just made himself look like an idiot, like usual. I mean, what do we really expect at this point? So if you haven't been following all the Twitch drama, I'll just try to summarize it as quick as possible, but I'm going to leave out a lot of details because there's just so much going on here. But I think it started with this streamer who was asking other streamers and their fans and his fans for money because he said his bank account was frozen, and all these streamers gave him a ton of money, and it turns out he's just gambling it all away. And now he lost it all. So all these streamers were kind of using this to push to have gambling removed from Twitch, because some of the major streamers have been pushing to have this removed for like over a year now. And I think this actually worked. I think they did remove the gambling, some of the gambling on their website. So during all this, Mizkif, one of the biggest Twitch streamers, decided to take a shot at Trainwrecks TV, who's a gambling streamer, and he has a massive contract for stake, I think it is. So Mizkif decided to comment this on a tweet that was talking about all the gambling controversy, and he said, "If we're going to deplatform people for scamming others, shouldn't we have banned you for Jokecoin a few years back?" And I guess he's referring to some crypto thing that Trainwrecks was involved in a few years ago. So after this, Trainwrecks responded with a bombshell, and he said, "Are you going to send Maya and Mitch to railroad and blackmail me like you did those girls to cover up all those sexual assaults, you effing scumbag piece of shit? You want to come at me and make shit up? Then you better believe you don't live in a glass house." And then soon after this, a girl went live on Twitch, and she described the situation that she went through where Mizkif's best friend, who's also a Twitch streamer, she was at a party with him, and apparently she was drunk and she passed out on a bed in the other room, and he kept going in there and he was telling people that he was checking her pulse or something, but he's really just touching her inappropriately. And then afterwards, it sounds like Mizkif wanted this girl to downplay what happened because he didn't want his friend to get in trouble. So he sent his girlfriend over to her house to talk to her and help her write a Twitter post about it and try to convince her that what happened wasn't that big of a deal. And it just sounds like Mizkif and his girlfriend wanted her to downplay it as much as possible because they wanted to save their friend. And then it turns out afterwards, the girl who was sexually assaulted, she was kind of blacklisted from their friend group because the guy who did it to her didn't want to be around her because she almost canceled him. And Mizkif, it sounded like, didn't really want to be around her, and she just felt like things were weird between them, and she's having trouble hanging out with her friends because they want to be a part of that group too, but now she can't be. So it just sounded like it was a nightmare for her. And this happened like I think a year or two ago, and this streamer Trainwrecks, he was actually like helping her out, I guess, after this, and she was telling him all about it because he's not part of that group. And just recently she told Trainwrecks that it's okay to bring this up and she's ready to like make it public and everything. And there's a lot more that's going on that I'll probably get to throughout the video, and I probably missed some things and maybe I got some things wrong, but you probably got the gist of it, and there are a billion people that have talked about this already. So of course, after all this, Ethan Klein has to come out and give the worst take possible, as expected. He spent probably an hour or two just ripping on Trainwrecks and xQc, and maybe spent like 5-10 minutes talking about Mizkif and his friend. He did condemn what they did, and he said something like, "Mizkif looks really bad here, he screwed up big time, and his friend's a terrible person." But it's just crazy that when this story was brought to light, Ethan spends an hour and a half criticizing the people that exposed it because I guess they didn't do it the right way, and then going after them and trying to cancel them, which is a pretty weird way to respond to that. But Ethan called out Trainwrecks for weaponizing this girl's sexual assault and using it to try to get at Mizkif because Mizkif was coming at him for like gambling and all that stuff, which, you know, Trainwrecks, he didn't release this information in the best way possible, but also, you know, this is the internet. Ethan, as we'll get to here, he weaponizes sexual assault more than anybody. I mean, that has been his whole channel almost, like just going after people he hates and trying to find some story to destroy their life. Like the Fresh and Fit guys, he had some girl call into his show that just had like an awkward encounter with one of them, and you know this is bad. Even Ethan's fans were defending Fresh and Fit, which is a terrible look. But Ethan, he had this girl on, and she's talking about this encounter she had with one of them, and she's like, "Yeah, it was awkward, it was weird, he's kind of a douche, but he didn't do anything illegal or anything that bad." And Ethan's like, "I don't know, that sounds like sexual assault to me." Like, you could tell he just wanted her to say it was, because all he cares about is taking down people he doesn't like, and he wants people to think he cares. He wants to look like the good guy, he wants to look like the hero, but nobody could convince me that he's doing this for the right reasons. And then he has the audacity to call out Trainwrecks for weaponizing something like this, even though the victim in this story has been in contact with Trainwrecks, and she said he could talk about this, and she said the way he did it is appropriate, and she likes him, and she supports everything. So the victim here that Trainwrecks is sticking up for thinks he did a good job, but of course Ethan's like, no, this isn't good. He's weaponizing this, all this stuff. Like, all right, maybe it's not the best way he could have gone about things, but why is that the big focus here? Like, what about your friend Mizkif and his friend Slicker or whatever the hell his name is? Like, that guy's a creepy motherfucker. Why don't you talk about that for like hours like you did with David Dobrik? Like, David Dobrik, he would never let David Dobrik live down the situation he was a part of that was very similar to this Mizkif thing. He covered up a sexual assault that his friend did, and Ethan went after him. He's been going after him for like over a year now. There's probably 50 hours of content of Ethan trashing him, and he would never let him live that down. But Mizkif and his friend, it's like, oh man, these guys, they screwed up. But let's move on to the bigger picture here. How Trainwrecks released the information. I don't like how he did that.
I'm free to make my own interpretation without questioning the validity of her claims. Again, I believe her.
Of course.
But they used it as a weapon to serve their own interests. Obviously. Like, let's not fucking pretend that's not what happened here.
Well, in their own words.
He literally said, yeah, and let me back it up here, because they go on to debate Hassan and Pokey, which I think is great. And I just want everyone to know what xQc said about it.
In initial detail about the case in only release. It's just like a timing thing. I don't know why people get so caught up about that.
Why are you guys so caught up
I don't know why
about the
people are
timing?
so caught up. Extension of weaponizing this. Bro, it's a weapon. Like, what the fuck?
Are you serious?
It's a weapon.
You don't just put that in the vault and wait until it's opportunistic for you to use it. Like, do you not understand that's fucked up? I mean, I'm like in Crazy World. Really the perfect way to handle a serious story with serious ramifications that you obviously care about.
Yeah.
He's like, bro, I'm a huge dude. I support her, man. Her story means everything. There's a lot more. I'm going to save it to keep you guys in check.
So the best part about all this, and I'll get to this later on in the video, is literally the next day he goes on a podcast with Hassan and tries to weaponize a story about sexual harassment against Trainwrecks. Like, the same exact thing that he's criticizing them for doing, he does the next day. He weaponizes the story, and he's like, oh, this poor girl, Trainwrecks was harassing her, like, I think 4 years ago, I think this story took place. Like, this is old news, and it sounds like everyone's moved past it. It's settled. Nobody really wants to rehash it, and Ethan brings it up, and he's like, oh, I can't believe this happened to her. I'm so sorry. This sounds terrible. And he literally does the same thing he's complaining about them doing. He weaponizes a story against them about sexual harassment. And he wants us to believe that xQc and Trainwrecks don't care about the victim in their story, but he really cares about this victim of some harassment like 4 years ago, where everything's been told in the story. It sounds like there's nothing new to be added. But Ethan, he brought this up because he really cares about her. He really feels bad. This is such a terrible thing. Like, how stupid do you have to be to believe that shit? And I'm not really too familiar with all the Trainwreck stuff, like the harassment stuff, but I think it was proven that nothing was really there and it was just blown out of proportion. But also, I feel like Ethan just bringing this up out of nowhere destroys its credibility as well. Like, even if something was there, the fact that Ethan just attached himself to it, that does not help the story. Because also, as we'll see later, when Ethan gets into all the Trainwrecks drama, it sounds like Ethan doesn't even know what the hell he's talking about.
I'm sorry. It just is. Like,
well, you can't argue with how effective it was, because immediately this became the entire conversation and not the gambling anymore. So mission accomplished, I guess. It worked.
Everyone's saying, Ethan, you have no idea what you're talking about. I'm sorry. This is not the way you bring up serious allegations. If he was serious about it, he should have done it in a serious way. I'm sorry. Like, again, not talking about the validity, but this is super scummy of him. I'm not going to let him act like he's the fucking good guy because he weaponized some really serious shit in a moment to deflect against his gambling scandal. Now, we can get into the validity of it, but I feel like I'm mental, bro. I'm mental.
Hey, I'm not going to argue with that. But I like how he says he should have done this in a more serious way because the allegations are so serious. All right, do you want him to do it on frenemies next to Trisha Paytas eating pizza dressed as Beetlejuice? Like, is that what you want to happen? Because apparently Ethan's the only one that knows how to do things the right way. And again, I'm not saying that Trainwrecks did this the best way, but Ethan has no right to call them out for it because he would have done the same thing. I mean, he pretty much did the same thing. Like, Trainwrecks, he got this girl's permission. Apparently this was the best time he felt like, and the girl agrees apparently. So what do you really have that much to complain about? You'd think somebody like Ethan, who is all about victims getting the justice that they deserve and like being there for them, you'd think he'd spend more time talking about that like he did with David Dobrik.
Hassan, because they weren't taking it serious enough. I'm telling you, I'm going to get into it, but it was so fucked up. I'm telling you guys, Trainwreck is such a scumbag, and I'm going to show you guys exactly how. So just remember that this idiot broke the news like this, and I really don't care what anyone else says. The victim is on Trainwreck's side. She says it's fine the way he did it. That's okay, right? Like, she's welcome to have that opinion. My opinion is I'm not questioning the validity of whatever she said happened. She's welcome to have an opinion, and so am I. And my opinion is, okay, this is fucked up. He obviously did this emotionally.
So during all the Twitch drama, Hassan actually took some collateral, because when Trainwrecks tweeted that, Hassan was live and he was reacting to it, and it seemed like initially he was questioning it and he didn't really believe it because he thought that Trainwrecks was just saying this because people are coming after him for gambling. So that's another reason why Ethan's going after xQc and Trainwrecks, because Hassan took some damage from this as well and they made him look bad. So Ethan, of course, has to defend him. Like, Ethan always has to come to Hassan's defense, and I swear to God, every time he does this, he only makes him look worse. And also when Hassan defends Ethan. These two are just not good for each other. And I think Hassan kind of realizes that. Like, on this podcast at least, you could tell he's kind of annoyed with Ethan, and he just doesn't really want to go into all this Trainwrecks drama. Even H3 fans are pointing this out, and they're like, oh, Hassan definitely looks uncomfortable here. But then some people are trying to spin it like, oh, Ethan's just such a good friend. Look at this. He'll do whatever he can to defend somebody. But I feel like if you're a good friend, you should realize when you're only making things worse, which is definitely what Ethan's doing here. He's not helping Hassan at all.
So, so Train is accusing you guys of not caring about the victim. He, of course, is a giant fucking hypocrite piece of shit because he has a reputation for actually, and I learned this all last night, and this blew my mind, because how could he be such a giant hypocrite, actually? He has a whole history of sexually harassing people and women and just being a disgusting fucking creep. I mean, I'm sure you've seen these, Hassan. Is that right?
I saw some of it. I remember the "What up, you sexy brown-haired Latino?" because like that was really funny because it's fucking.
Yeah. So these are all, I guess, chat logs of him talking to women in their chat.
I think this is specifically Alinity, who is a content creator who at the
I don't think you can get more shameless than this. And I think this is kind of insulting to your audience, because it's like, hey, I know you guys are stupid. You're not going to be able to put the pieces together. Like, you just got done criticizing xQc and Trainwrecks for weaponizing something like this. And then the next day you come on and you're going to act like you actually care about this girl and you're just doing this for the right reasons. Like, who the hell is supposed to believe that? And I think he just said he figured out about this last night, and you could tell he's not prepared at all. He doesn't really know what he's looking at. And Hassan's even kind of defending Trainwrecks a little bit, and you could tell Hassan just doesn't want to go into this because he knows it's a bad look. I mean, at least Hassan's smart enough to be like, dude, this is not the move to make here. And Ethan's just like, look at all this. This guy's terrible. What a piece of shit. He's such a hypocrite. And coming up here is one of the funniest things ever. Hassan's like, what's the context of this? Who's he talking to? Like, what's this all about? And Ethan's like, I don't even know, but I know somebody somewhere knows.
Good.
So for the record, for people who don't understand, this is like what Trainwreck is writing in Alinity's chat, and it does seem like there's a back and forth conversation going on between him typing in the chat and her responding. I don't have access to the VODs or anything. I can't see. I don't know what she's saying in this circumstance, but I will clarify because a lot of people are not familiar with how Twitch works. So just understand, because it does seem like he's talking to her.
It gets worse and worse, though. You'll see. Oh, this is my favorite. She goes, I had to stop my sentence. I would have gotten in trouble. No, man, she's 15. She's 15. Trust me. That's why I'm into her. Damn, girl.
I don't know what chats these are from. I don't know what the fuck this is from. That's fucking weird and gross.
No, man, she's 15,
if it's real, because I don't know.
What do you mean if it's real?
Where is it from? Who's he saying this to?
Oh.
You gotta have more. Like, we gotta figure it out.
Right. I don't know, but I think somebody knows. Somebody somewhere knows.
So at least Hassan's not as bad as Ethan. I always go back and forth. I'm like, who's worse? But after this, I'd say Ethan's worse because at least Hassan's not dumb enough and not spiteful enough to just see whatever, and just believe it at face value and not even question it. But Ethan, on the other hand, he doesn't question it because obviously he hates this person, and that's really the only reason. He just sees these and believes it 100%. Doesn't even think about that. Like, this is out of context. Like, he's talking to somebody. There's no response here. Like, this is all really old, and it could just be fake. But he's just like, wow, this is so bad. This guy's a piece of shit. Look what he's doing here. And all the comments were pointing out how Hassan is uncomfortable because he doesn't want to be roped into this. Like, this just makes things worse. And it makes him just look stupid. Like, this is such a bad move here.
You know what I mean?
Well, what happened to Alinity was one of the things that really fucking pissed me off. Like, at the time, and even especially now looking back, I mean, she got shafted so fucking hard by the whole internet. It was honestly repulsive, disgusting, and in the midst of making serious accusations against Trainwreck, people were just basically openly and socially acceptably victim shaming her because
I don't know if I'm missing something here or I just don't understand what he's saying, but didn't earlier he just say that he figured out about all this last night? And then right here he's like, man, back when that happened, I really felt bad for her. That's terrible. It really pissed me off. And thinking back on it, it's terrible. Like, he's just pretending right here. Like, it's very clear he's just saying this because he wants to make Trainwrecks look bad. He's making it so obvious. I don't understand how his fans could possibly be like, thank you, Ethan, for talking about this. I'm so glad you brought this up. I'm so glad she's getting justice. Like, Ethan's only making things worse here. Now she's going to get more hate, and he's only doing this to get at Trainwrecks. I don't understand how you could look at it any other way. Like, if he really cares about victims and sexual assault and harassment and everything, why is he spending more time talking about this 4-year-old story that he's adding nothing to, that's already been talked about, and it sounds like everybody's done with it? And I'm not totally sure, but I think people prove that Alinity was lying, and, like, her story just kind of fell apart. But Ethan's spending more time talking about this than a story that just broke that's a lot worse and a lot more serious. Like, with that story, he's like, yeah, I'll talk about it for 10 minutes, but let's get to the real thing. This story that happened 4 years ago. Let's rehash all that. Like, the only thing that Ethan's proving here is he doesn't really care about the victims, and he will easily weaponize all this stuff. So there's just one more thing I want to get to, and it's Ethan, of course, looking like a massive hypocrite. Like, he has no right to call anybody else a hypocrite because he is just on another level when it comes to that. I don't think he's ever been consistent with any idea he's ever had.
By the way, here's Trainwreck also spreading fucking extremely misogynistic, disgusting lies about Alinity later on in 2019.
But anyways, dude, I fully agree with Greek, dude. And I hate to say it, but I'm going to say it, dude.
I don't think he hates to say it.
I genuinely and honest to God believe everything Greek is saying.
Shit.
I honestly think that Alinity has something on someone that has decent power on Twitch, or has fucked them. Either fucked them or has decent power, or something over them that has decent power. It has to be the case. I've never seen someone, I mean, it's not even the case. Lip smacks.
And by the way, this is such a malicious, fucked up lie. He's a piece of shit. This is a continuation of his sexual harassment of her, in my opinion, saying that, oh, she's definitely fucking someone at Twitch. That's the only explanation for what's going on. Of course, no evidence. It's not true.
So I've pointed this out like a billion times in my videos because Ethan does this with everybody. He'll be like, this person's a piece of shit, misogynist, they did all this terrible stuff. But it turns out Ethan's done the same exact thing. But he's good now, he's changed and all that. And after this, I don't know what it'll take for his fans to realize that he's full of shit because it is so clear here. I don't know how somebody could watch this and think anything else. But still, I'm sure his fans would be like, oh, he's changed. He's a good guy now. He's just trying to do the right thing. Like, what?
I don't believe
And
it.
I wouldn't even be surprised if some of these girls are like, I'm going to specifically try to fuck a high-level Twitch staffer to get preferential treatment.
And then also we have Ethan talking about Alinity, the girl that was involved in all the Trainwreck stuff that he was just talking about, like the girl that he feels really bad for. And he's talking about her because she got into some controversy with like throwing her cat. And also, I think PewDiePie made fun of her or something, and that's what Ethan is talking about here.
This is the big gossip story on the internet of last week. Alinity, who is a Twitch streamer with big-ass titties. She's like a titty streamer. Well, I don't know the size of her tits. I'm only saying that. She's known for wearing like very little clothing, And and I think it's assumed that most people that are watching is because she's a pretty girl that doesn't wear a lot of clothes. Is that right, Dan?
It doesn't sound like what he did was that offensive, so just go with it. If I was her,
Yeah, embrace it.
Yeah.
Well, if somebody called you a hoe,
If I dressed like that, I'm not calling her a hoe, but I would at least understand where.
certainly not the first time.
You know, I can understand it.
Yeah. Well,
I mean, when you dress like it, you kind of ask for that attention, you know?
Yeah.
Yep, there you go. A couple misogynist pieces of shit making fun of some girl that just likes to dress how she wants, you know? Like, what are we supposed to make of this, dude? Who takes these people seriously? Like, he made it clear that he is so full of shit. The fact that anybody takes him seriously is pretty scary because the guy has no credibility and he will do whatever it takes to try to bring somebody down, like we saw here. I mean, he just completely embarrassed himself trying to bring this guy down, and I think most of his fans realize it, hopefully. Alright, so that's about it for this video. Thanks for watching. Make sure you hit the like button, leave me a comment, then hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you at the next video.